tutorial is to show you the basics of Photoshop for those of you who are struggling a little bit with this particular software package. Photoshop is an image editing software package which you will use to construct the front page of your magazine, and you will also do any kind of image enhancements or any retouching in this program before you copy the images into InDesign, which is another Adobe software package. I've zoomed in slightly on the image here, but before you start editing your images you need to set up your page. To do that, make sure you've got Photoshop selected, go File, New, International Paper Size, A4 and then OK. And then all of your images can be copied across to there. I'm going to deselect this here. So once you've got your image imported, this is the first task. We'll zoom out a little. I'm going to get you to use the quick selection tool, which I find is the most easiest method to do this. You can also use the lasso tool if you've got a steady hand and you can crop out the image. The magnetic lasso is quite useful for those if you've got a nice clearly defined edge. It will snap to the image because it's quite an intelligent software package, this one. But I actually find the selection tool, the quick selection tool, the most efficient. You can change the size of your quick selection up here. And you will also change the hardness and the spacing, so we'll set it there. And on the image here, we've got the layer selected, and I'm going to start and quickly copy around this image that I've already pre-prepared in the software package. As you can see, I'm doing this very, very roughly, and it doesn't matter really if we go over the edges, as you'll see in a moment. So let's just go over the edge there so you get to see what you can do. And I'll just go over my glasses there. So, say you made a little mistake. If you hold down the Alt key, your cursor changes to a minus and we can actually deselect some of that image there. So you go around the image like so. You'll have more time to do that, obviously. There's a little bit over here. I'll just get rid of that. And if you hold your cursor over the centre of the image, right click, layer via copy, you have a different layer above. So we're very interested in this panel here because there's lots of different things that we can do with our images. And here, the little eyes you can spot, that actually makes a layer visible or invisible. So if we hide that layer for the moment, we can see that the edge needs a little bit of tidying up, and there's a number of ways in which we can do this. We could use the rubber tool, so the eraser. We've got the background eraser and the magic eraser tool. I just prefer the eraser tool. So if I select that, you can actually change the mode. So you can have pencil, block or brush, depending on the effect that you wish. And you can also change the size. So we'll just keep it nice and small there. And what you can do is if you view and zoom into the image, you can actually go around very, very gently, erasing some more of that image there. But please make sure, if it's not erasing first time, can you make sure that you've got your layer selected? Layers are very important when constructing your magazine. Another thing that you might want to do is the clone stamp. So if I just hold down the clone stamp, click on that. I'm going to just refine the edge of my cardigan here, and I'm going to take a sample clone of the colours which are involved in this pattern in the cardigan. And again, if you hold down Alt, take a sample, and you can see if I start drawing, actually what Photoshop's done quite cleverly is copied that sample of pattern, and I've used it as a clone brush tool. Now that might be useful just to kind of make your edges more refined, as you can see. And it just smooths it out a little bit, so that might be something you want to use. Obviously, if I just do this here, you can see it doesn't quite work. Actually, taking a sample of my skin there, and so it'll be quite intelligent, and it'll assess the image and see what colours are similar around where you're trying to brush on the image there, and it will replicate those. Okay, so there's the clone stamp that you might want to use. Another tool you might want to use is this tool here. You've got blur, sharpen and smudge. If I just show you what the smudge tool does, it basically just smudges the edge. Again, you can refine it, so you can have darken, lighten, hue, saturation, and change the size of your smudge tool as well. I'll just step backwards. So if you do make a mistake, just go edit, step backwards. Or you can also use the blur tool, which again, I'll just use it on my eye so you can see quite clearly. It will start and blur. Can you see how it's just slightly changing and altering that image there? So that might be an effect just to smooth out those edges, because remember, to get the higher marks, you must make sure that there's a nice clean line around your images. Otherwise, sloppy cropping could lose your mark. So let's just step backward there. So there's some basic tools for you to use. Other tools that you'll obviously need to use are the text tool. So the text tool you can actually find down here. And remember, you can download fonts. Use my other tutorial to see how you download fonts. You can click anywhere on the image and you can see that it creates here a brand new layer for your text. I'm just going to reduce the size of that text slightly, and I'll just put my name. You can see at the moment it's white. We need to move that. So if you click up here, make sure you've got show transform controls. You can actually move that, and we'll move it down here so you can see my text. And I can reposition. Once you're happy with your position of your text, you may need to select to say that you're happy with that. To resize text, personally, I would suggest that you click on the T and you double click to highlight the text again, and you can change the font styles up here. So let's use this one here. Remember, if you download a font, if you remember the name, you can find your font in this section here. You can change the intensity of the font. You might want it heavy, bold, italic, etc. Remember, if you download a font, I can't guarantee that you can make your font in italics because a downloaded font has different things that you can do with it. You can also center your font and right and left align your font. You can curve your font as well, and obviously change the size. And that's where I would change the size. What I wouldn't do is if you select here, and if I hold down Shift to keep the ratio correct, I can actually increase the size that way. And remember, this is the bit where I have to tick to say I agree with the changes. Sometimes that can affect the quality of your text, so just be a little bit careful with that if you do choose that option. Remember, you're going to have lots of different layers of text, so it's a good idea to name each layer so you know which part is which, and that will help with the construction of your magazine. Images, layers, if I want a new layer, if I click on this button down here, and I can drag that underneath, I can actually, and remember the most interesting magazines will have some sort of texture, some sort of interest going on in the background. And I can use the colour swatch here to select a different colour. So let's go for a nice bright red. And if we click OK, I can also find the bucket tool. If you can't see the bucket tool immediately, if you hold your cursor down, it might be hidden behind the gradient tool. But if I click on Paint Bucket and then fill that layer, so remember I've selected that layer there, click on fill, you can see that it fills with red. And you should have already tried this out when you did your OP self image, your self portrait in September. So there we have the very basics in Photoshop. Remember, for this background layer, you might not necessarily want a colour. You may want some sort of texture or pattern. What I would suggest is you go on the internet, find a high quality image of a pattern that you quite like, and you could import that as your background layer. But there should be a lot of stuff going on your front page. You might need text to wrap around the image. So if I just drag this down below that layer there, obviously my text is hidden, but I can drag it up. And you might want to do this effect here. So remember, on a magazine, your masthead will slightly be behind that main cover image. And that is why it's so important to crop out the image correctly and appropriately in order to let you do that. So there's the very basics. Watch the next tutorial for some more advanced techniques to try and enhance the front page of your magazine.